this situation at OTAs that is Kenny Pickett taking third string reps has been something that has been some people are at odds with it. Some people say it doesn't matter. It'll be a natural progression as Mason Rudolph plays his way out of that position. I'm not understanding, though, why Mason Rudolph is taking any snaps if they drafted 2 quarterbacks, signed a free agent quarterback. Essentially, you went out and you got 3 quarterbacks. Why is Mason Rudolph taking snaps away from anyone, even if it's only OTAs?
What team's he running with? Is he taking second team? And Trubisky's taking the first team rep.
Correct. And then you have Kenny Pickett taking third team reps, which if you draft a quarterback in the first round, it's my thought you automatically walk in your second team at worst. Or why'd you do it?
I'm not sure that's an indication of anything except wanting to, stick to the old-fashioned, go out and earn it kind of a mentality. Mason Rudolph is an anomaly to me. I don't understand why we drafted him. I don't understand why we kept him. And right now, I would say they're probably trying to shop him to see if he has any trade value. And so they're allowing him to keep taking reps. That would be my guess. And I don't think he'll make training camp. I really don't.
I think that's a good guess by you, except this isn't the time where they play games. Like, nobody sees that tape. Maybe it's a paper situation where they're listing him as the second team quarterback, so as his value doesn't plummet and other teams think he stinks so much, and then he's listed as the third team quarterback.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of validity to that, Colin. I really do. Hey, how long has he been here? 3 years, 4 years?
What don't we know about him that we need to find out?
Yeah, I agree. That was going to be my point. He doesn't have it. Goodbye. I would say try to trade him. He's got to have some trade value, or does he? I don't know that he does. I don't know that he can play in the NFL.
Right. Oh, actually, I had 3 good things. And the next one is receiver.
Yeah.
Do you care on a fan level as to why Deontay Johnson wasn't at OTAs the first week, but he is the second week? Do you care why he didn't show up the first week? And is it any of your business? If it's voluntary.
I think as a fan, it is our business. Okay. I think in order to form an opinion, I would like to know if it's because he didn't get his contract. I would like to know if there was some sort of protest going on. I would like to know that. And I think listen, when you put on that uniform and you step onto that field as a Pittsburgh Steeler, you're public domain. And I don't think there is anything such as privacy unless it was in your private life. But in your football life, all is fair.
Okay. I'm wondering if a lot of people are missing the story. They think it's about contract, or they think it's about him making a statement.
Yeah.
What is the story? I don't know the full story, but I know he was working out, and I know that his workout regimen kind of worked up to a timeline to this week to report. I also know he was very close to Dwayne Haskins and had grown close to him. So that being said, maybe it set him back, everything that happened with Dwayne Haskins. Again, it could be all about his contract, but that's why I think it's interesting for everybody to be quick to say it's about his contract.
I would think, and again, just to guess, but I would really think, I think the Dwayne Haskins fatality really impacted a lot of people there. And I
agree with you.
And I think that would be very plausible. I think it would also be forgivable. You have to have your head on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would actually prefer that to be the case. I would even like that to be the case, because that's soul, that's meanings and feelings.
Yeah, it shows it humanizes him as somebody who's grieving and going through a process, if that's in fact what's happening. To stay with him for a minute, there's been one Steeler ever really, and it's Hines Ward and then Antonio Brown kind of to get that second contract. Is Deontay Johnson worth a second contract as a Steeler? Because I think he is as a receiver.
Well, is this his third year?
This will be going into they'll have to decide on the fifth year. Yeah, so fourth year.
I mean, I'm not Omar. I'm not the general manager. If I were, I would have to be on the show me part. because he started poorly. I mean, he had all the ability in the world. I love him personally. I really do.
Okay.
But from just looking at that vision of a monochromatic vision of the performance on the field, I mean, he struggled with keeping balls. Last year, not so bad. We focus more on the balls he drops than the balls he catches.
It's your parents are never going to tell you that you made it home on time. They're always going to focus on the couple times you're late. That's just how life is.
I like that, but I love him. I love his style. I don't see a lot of people that have what he has, and I love him. And the same with Chase. I love Chase. Chase, when Chase goes up for that ball, man, we're either drawing a penalty or he's catching it. He fell off a little bit last year. I'm not sure why he fell off a little bit last year. If it's focus, it's hard to believe for me that a professional with that kind of ability has a focus problem.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because we'll get to that in just a little bit. That's fascinating you use that term, focus. Let me ask you, though, back to Deontay Johnson for 1 second. If I asked you, between 1 and 100 Pittsburgh Steeler fans, and I even mean diehard fans, how many of them would know this? And these are even people that are detractors of Deontay Johnson. He was second last year in targets in the NFL, 5th in receptions, and 10th in yardage. I bet 40 out of maybe 35 out of 100 Steeler fans would know that. Even with being limited by Ben, he had a pretty productive year.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. And I think that's, again, goes back to your parental analogy that your parents focus on the days that you came in late, not the days you were there on time. And I think that's what people tend to do with Deontay. And I'm not sure why. I don't know why that negative energy exists around him like that. I didn't know those numbers. I'm not surprised by them. I love him, as I said. And I think that I don't know if I'd give him the contract now if I didn't have to. I'd really want to see this year.
Yeah, and make him sort of sing for his supper. I think that teams don't do that enough with players. They contract them a year out, and they don't sort of make them produce. All right, focus. I'm so glad you touched on focus. Devin Bush spoke on Wednesday after practice and said, are you ready for this? That there were times he admitted that last year, sure, his knee was bothering him and things, but there were times that he struggled with his focus as a National Football League linebacker. It's an admission. Okay, I guess you get points for admitting something, but how do you go out and play in the NFL and lack focus?
And then to be able to say that in front of people out loud and actually say that, I would say, almost, what do you say when you're standing in line and your ticket's punched and then the guy says, next? That's what I'd be saying about Devin Bush. Next.
It's beside me. I'm beside myself thinking that someone would go into an endeavor where there are only 100 and some men really who do that. If you look at it, then you have that opportunity. You've worked so hard, you get there, and then admit that you've lost focus.
Well, I'm disappointed to hear that. I didn't know that, by the way. This is one of those things that you bring that I can't contribute to. But I don't know anything about it. And I think it's wonderful that you know that. But man, I'll tell you, I didn't think that way about him until right now. I'm disappointed because I was a Devin Bush fan. I really was. You could see the lack of focus, almost like he was confused on the field.
Which then gets me to the next point with him is, if he's readily admitting that he lost focus and kind of an ability to stay locked in a little bit, why am I led to believe, as I've said all along, that anything he says is going to lead to improvement moving forward? I can't believe he's going to get any better, Richard.
No, I don't believe he's going to get better either. I also don't think he's going to start.
Ooh. Wow. So Miles Jack and then one of the other linebackers.
I am so high on Miles Jack.
So am I.
I love Miles Jack. I love Miles Jack. I love Brian Flores in that role. I think, and remember, we talked about this last week, Miles Jack said Brian Flores was one of the reasons he came, right?
Right.
And Brian is really a defensive, brilliant man. I love our new structure. I still say Steelers win the division. I still say it. I think our defense is going to be fabulous, and I think it's going to be minus Devin Bush.
I think it is too. I think he'll play for 4 or 5 games, and then he'll largely be a sub. Now, that defense, you have Terrell Austin, who's the coordinator, Brian Flores, who's a linebackers coach, and don't forget Mike Tomlin at the very top as a defensive coach. Can those 3 guys, who are all very powerful and all very good defensive minds, can they allow power to yield and work together, though?
Oh, I don't think power is yielding. I think power is sharing.
Is unifying? Yeah.
With these 3 guys, yes. I think that Mike Tomlin's a master at that. I really do. And I think that, again, you go back to Keith Butler, man, I don't know how many people watch this. I hope not a lot, because the things I say sometimes, might not be so endearing, but I was never a Keith Butler fan. So, Mike Tomlin's involvement probably needed to be more. But I think if Mike Tomlin has the confidence in his coordinators, I think Mike Tomlin absolutely 100% has the ability to work well together. And especially with Brian, because it was, Mike Tomlin said, well, why did you hire Brian? And his answer was, because I can. And, so that was really a good move for him. He's not going to interfere. He's going to let him coach. And I just think the whole thing is going to go, it's really going to be cool. I love it.
It's crazy. The more I dive into it and read it, I think that, and why am I led to believe anything other than the truth in what Brian Flores says? I think he was a guy that got caught up in a really bad situation in Miami, and he was in a tenuous spot as to speak out against someone very powerful who was essentially his boss. Why would he lie about any of that?
He's not lying. He's not lying, and I want him to prevail. We don't want that. That's not who we are. And NFL is supposed to represent a microcosm of the world, of the society, and that's not the way I want to be represented. So I hope that he prevails, and you will see that he's telling the truth.
Yeah. The more I keep thinking about, what would he have to gain by a fabrication of any sort? And he has nothing.
So let me go back to one of my favorite people real quick. We talked about Omar. Mm-hmm. And what do you think about some of the things Omar has been saying? His interviews. I love him.
I think that he understands. It's very obvious he understands the culture of the Steelers. It's obvious that he understands his role. The thing that strikes me the most is it's obvious that he understands the delegation of power. And ultimately, at the end of the day, yes, he needs to be the general manager and make the decision that if there's veto power, if it comes down to one vote. But he seems to be the kind of man to give you a job and trust you in it until you screw up, and give him a reason not to trust you in it. And that's kind of, I think, a very good leadership way. You find foot soldiers beneath you, and you say, you do your job, and then you kind of report to me. I think that's the leadership structure of the Steelers right now.
I think it is. I think Omar, like you, I think Omar's the right guy to do that. But make no mistake, he has the knowledge to do every one of those roles.
You know what else I like is, like, you look at the background and going to Tulane and studying the strategics of football and doing all that, and what his parents were. It's like the American dream, hard work story. Like, nobody ever said to him, your surname is this, and you're handed this, and here's football lineage, and it runs 5 generations, and somebody's an owner of this. Not one day was he handed something and given it, and it was easy for him. And I root for people like that.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's a good man, definitely worthy of your support.
Yeah,
he's just a good man, and I love the things he's saying. I love the insights that he's been giving us about how he will approach this role.
It is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I thought I had a grasp on this with Trubisky and everything. The one thing I still can't get away from is I really don't know what's going to happen at quarterback. Week 1, I think I might have an idea that Trubisky is going to start. If it's week 6, I don't know who's going to be the quarterback.
What if Trubisky's having a great year at Game 6?
I hope he is. I hope he plays all year.
And then what?
Then he's the guy. He was a Pro Bowl guy. with a
And then
really
what?
bad team.
So what do you do at the end of the year if he has a great year? What do you do with Kenny Pickett?
Right? You took a chance and maybe someone was better. But I'd rather that happen than Kenny Pickett get inserted and not be good. Then prematurely put him in.
I don't think you have any chance of Kenny Pickett not being good.
You think he's going to be really good?
I do.
Well, but if you can't get on the field, that's a different situation.
Well,
I think Trubisky's going to be really good, though, Richard.
Yeah, I do too. I like I said, I loved him right from the beginning. I really did. But I think you said last week, you asked me, what do you do if day one they're both at the same level?
Yes.
And of course, I said you start them. You said the opposite. When it comes to sports, you're usually right.
No.
Yeah, you pretty much are. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be fun. What else do we need to talk about?
Did you meet my friend Neil Walker by chance?
Oh my heavens!
Huh?
Oh, what a guy! I mean, he is. And I said that to him, and I told him about you, and I told him how many times you've tried to introduce us, and all the wonderful things you've said about him. But I didn't really get it until we interviewed together.
Right.
I get it. I told him that I get it. He's so down to earth. He's so relatable. He's just a good guy. He really is.
Well, someone said to me, they said, what's Neil like? And this was not long ago. We got a buddy of mine that I went to high school with. He said, what's Neil Walker like? I said, imagine your next door neighbor, but he just so happened to play second base for the Pirates. I mean, it's that simple, right?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But there, we got into how he came up with his dad, and you had told me actually that his dad was supposed to be on the Roberto Clemente plane, and he talked about that, and we talked about the influence of his dad, and we talked about how that bridged where he was playing sports as a local guy and the pros. How that his dad helped build that bridge. We talked about everything, and he's a wonderful guy. I would say he's a lovely guy. That sounds, maybe not so great, but he's a lovely guy. Really,
he's the best. So there's that, but it is starting to be that time. People are itching. They're getting there. It's almost, I could feel football, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I feel football too, but let me go to baseball. And I was going to ask Neil this question, but I didn't want to put him on the spot because he's got a nice 35-game broadcast gig right now.
Mm-hmm.
He was really excited, by the way, that I knew Vin Scully.
Wow.
Yeah, he was pretty excited by that. But my question would be, why? And I understand, by the way, the ownership of the Pittsburgh Pirates, many people love them, and they're great guys. But why do we not win? Why do we allow this to go on? Why do we support a losing team?
It's split in half. One, the structure is a scenario where you have to do everything right for a market like Pittsburgh to win. But the first step in doing everything right is spending a lot of money.
So number one would be cap?
Number one would be cap and floor.
Unlimited cap.
Yes, but you can circumnavigate that once every decade or so if you just say, we're going to spend a ton of money and then we're going to tear it all down. Then we're going to spend a ton of money. Then we're going to tear it all down. If you're a small market team and they don't go through that process because they never do the initial step in that. They just draft and hope that their players are good enough that they draft.
There's got to be some level of coaching that allows success in a small market team like this.
It's at the minor league level whenever you're developing talent, and that's what has to happen. You have to develop players, draft them, and get them when they're young and make them push through the system and be better. And they haven't been able to do that, particularly pitchers.
Well, it's hard in a 162-game schedule, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But then again, you can look at it the other way. You got 162 chances.
Yeah, but you can only coach up. How do you coach somebody up for 162 games? I mean, you can win a game, you can win a weekend, you can win a series, but to coach them up. I guess I just don't still understand. I don't believe that it can be 100% salary cap. I don't believe that.
Well, it isn't. And you say 162, but a pitcher only goes out there 30 times.
So you think pitchers were a pitcher away from being great?
Oh, we're like 3 or 4 pitchers away. But what you have to do is identify that talent and draft the right guys. And they just haven't done that. And they haven't ever got, other than Garrett Cole, they just don't get better through the Pirates minor league system. That's a gigantic problem.
So what would you do
Gigantic.
if you were the owner?
Sell a team.
No, that's not an option.
Spend more money.
But
Well,
okay,
no,
okay. So
no,
wait,
no.
time out. No. You said sell the team. Okay, he's going to sell the team. You and me are going to buy it. And by the way, I would put together a group that could buy it if he wanted to sell the team. Call me, I'm in. Secondly, what would you do? You bought it. You and I bought the team. What do you do?
If they weren't going to change the structure of baseball, what I would do, I would be very public in trying to band together the small market owners and rail against the commissioner's office and tell them. See, that's the problem is these guys they say they want change, but nobody ever publicly comes out and says, we want change. They just keep cashing the check. Why don't we never hear the Pirates, or why do we ever hear one of the other small market teams, so to speak, come out and hear their owners say the system is flawed? You know why? Because they're making the television money, because they're making the revenue sharing money, because they're making a portion of all the gate. So, that's, if you're asking me what I would do, if I bought the team, I would buy it, I'd invest in it, but I'd also be vocal and speak out against the system. None of them ever do that.
Would you try to change the revenue sharing structure? Would you try to make it? How many teams, Major League Baseball teams are there?
30.
Okay, so there's 30 teams. Would you try to make the revenue sharing, the TV money, would you try to make it equal? Would you equalize it for all 30 teams?
See, I don't think it's fair to do that. I would try to make it proportionate in some degree, but is it fair that the Yankees have a market that's gigantic and then Milwaukee has one that's this big, and should they share each 1/30th? Probably not.
Well, yes, but remember, the game of baseball needs something. It needs a Michael Jordan. It needs a Magic Johnson. It needs something. And regardless of where that comes from, I think that it would benefit everybody. It wouldn't just benefit the Yankees. It wouldn't just benefit, or it wouldn't hurt the Pirates. It would be something. We need something in that game to change. And maybe it's not, maybe it is just an equal revenue sharing. I don't know, or a more weighted one, something that would give us more incentive to go out and build a good team. I don't know, but I know one thing. If you go to a baseball game at that ballpark, there's nothing like it. I mean, there's really nothing like it.
I agree. It's the best park in Major League Baseball. I agree to that. But yeah. I think they're now seeing that the park can only sell itself to a certain degree. And then there has to be a team.
There has to be a team. There has to be a team.
It's a sad state of affairs.
It really is. And we have been successful. Why can't we be successful again? It's been 40 years. But
they were successful for the 3-year run. And when they made the wild card, and I'll tell you exactly why they were successful. McCutchen, homegrown. Walker, homegrown. Jordy Mercer, homegrown. Pedro Alvarez, homegrown. 4 or 5.
Tell us what you mean by homegrown.
Drafted and developed through the system. They all meshed and came together at the same time and hit a crescendo when they were around the same age. Then they went out and supplemented with 1 or 2 free agents, the AJ Burnett's of the world and people like that, who they brought in and added to that mix. If you are a small market team like that, you have to hit it exactly right. If you're a big market team and those guys, you just go ahead and eat the salary and buy somebody else.
Right. And that's what they do. The Steinbrenners of the world.
Right.
And everybody and I get that. So are the same people making the decisions that drafted and brought up the
not now. No, that was Neil Huntington and those guys. Yes.
So that was Neil Huntington.
Yeah, this is now Ben Cherington and that bunch.
Okay.
So what you have to do is you have to allow them time to facilitate all the way through the system and give them 4 or 5 years.
How long's Ben been there?
3. This is the 3rd.
Okay. And do you think he's the guy to make the change?
The minor leagues look better, but you can never really tell until somebody can hit 600 in the minor leagues. They might come in here and hit 150. You can't tell till those guys, and they're starting to funnel in just a little, but they need to be major leaguers.
Do we have any exciting prospects?
Yes, O'Neal Cruz is good. A couple other guys are good. But you know what? People in Pittsburgh are tired of? People in Pittsburgh are tired of hearing about people in Indianapolis and Altoona. We pay more attention to minor leagues than any market in America. You think Yankee fans care about Scranton? You know, they don't.
Is it because we don't have anything else at the major league level?
Yes. Yes. It's sad. It really is.
Well, it's interesting. I think I would love to have this conversation deeper because I really don't understand why we accept mediocrity. I don't.
I don't either. It's nuts.
And it's also baseball is the most crazy sport in the world to me, where if we're 500, we're successful.
Yeah, and you don't have to play 162 games. That's the other secret too. That's a big revenue money grab. You can get away with playing about 120. You could play 100, heck, and still make a lot of money.
Well, sure, but you have to drive the desire to watch the game, and if you don't drive the desire, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because people have to want to. Because if they really are attracted to the game, if the game's really exciting and competitive, people were willing to pay more, right? So you pay more and you cut the schedule. So advertisers, sponsors, everybody's willing to pay more because the excitement in the game is generated. So I don't think you'd lose anything by cutting the schedule.
Nope. I think the NBA is going to do that soon, and they're going to have maybe an in-season tournament or some other things. Maybe even a global tournament and play some other teams in season and cut their schedule a little bit because they understand players are resting now in the middle of the season. They want games at a premium. They'd rather play 65 games that meant something than 81 games where there were straggler 10 games that didn't mean anything.
Okay, so that, and then finally hockey.
Yes.
I was really glad New York won the series.
Why?
But because
you don't like Carolina?
I just like the idea that somebody that beat us continues to win.
Well, that's a fair point. I just hold to this. And, I don't want to say I've tuned out the hockey, but and I watch the Rangers. If the Smith or Jari play the whole series, the Rangers don't win that. It's just fact.
You think?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know.
The Penguins played with some guy that was parking cars 3 days before.
Easy on the cars.
No, I'm saying it. But they did. The guy was working in the parking lot.
Yeah, but is that true?
No, but it sounds good.
It sounds great.
Yeah.
Here I am. I'm thinking from Arizona, Kurt Warner. I'm thinking Kurt Warner bagging groceries. No, I don't know. I'm the Jari thing. Do you think they keep Jari?
Yes, I think they do.
Okay.
All right, Richard. Great stuff. We covered it all.
Yeah, too much. It's too long.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
You're the best.
I'll see you.